Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Saturday, everybody. Hope your day and your weekend are off to a fantastic start. Got a new day, which of course means a new NBA player prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I have 5 NBA player props to go ahead and share with you guys in today's NBA slate. Now, before we dive into today's picks, we do have to do a quick little recap of how we did last night. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the page set up with the results. A little bit of a crazy day at the pizza shop yesterday, Friday, so I unfortunately do not have that there, but we obviously can talk about it. We did obviously lose our parlay last night. I believe only 2 out of 5 legs hit. It was a little bit of a rough performance. The last couple days have not been the best performances for myself here on the show. And look, it happens. Like Ev says in his videos, it's just sort of the nature of the beast. We're cold right now. Maybe we heat up today. I mean, to be fair, we're not like super cold. We were 6-3 going into Thursday. Then we obviously had our 0-4 performance on Thursday, followed by our parlay loss yesterday. Overall, if you do the math, that's still a 6-9 week overall. Pause for the applause. 6-9 week overall. So, I mean, it's not a great week. Obviously, we're having a losing week from a unit standpoint. But overall, we're still doing very well this year. And look, new day, new opportunities. What do I always say? If you're fortunate enough in life, you get the opportunity to wake up the next day and try again. That's what we're going to do. We're going to try again. Just because I lost a couple of days in a row, I'm not going to get deterred. I'm not going to stop making videos or not put a video up because we lost a couple picks. We have 5 player props to share with you guys today. A lot of great data. I think we got some really solid player props in our hands here today. Let's go ahead and bounce back. If you guys are watching this video today, please comment bounce back down below. Let's speak it into existence. We got some solid data, some solid player props, and no more time to waste, guys. So let's dive right into today's picks. Like I said, guys, make sure to comment bounce back if you are watching today's video. As always, we appreciate those for the support, for watching all the way through our videos, liking, subscribing, commenting, all that stuff. Even if you're commenting hate, even if you're a guppy, we still appreciate you because no matter what, you clicked on our video today and you're giving us a view, a comment, whatever the case may be, even a dislike. It is what it is. All right, our first player prop in today's slate comes from the Thunder Pistons game, 7 p.m. tip-off, and I'm probably going to piss a lot of you off already with my first player prop being a Tobias Harris prop, but we have Tobias Harris over 13.5 points, which we're getting for -125 over on FanDuel. It is available on multiple sportsbooks for varying odds. As always, guys, make sure to shop around for the best sportsbook odds available. That's very important when it comes to betting player props. And I know, you guys see Tobias Harris and you immediately think, no way, no how am I betting this bum? First of all, he's not a bum. He's a pretty solid player. I wouldn't say he's a great player. He's a solid player. But the data is pretty solid on this player prop. He's cashed the over in 7 of his last 10 games, averaging 16.1 points per game over his last 10 games. Go ahead and stretch the data out to the last 20 games for Tobias Harris. He's cashed it in 15 of his last 20. That is a 75% hit rate, averaging 16.2 points per game over his last 20 games. So pretty good numbers there for Tobias Harris. Go ahead and stretch the data out to the entire season view. Still a 51% hit rate. Not as impressive, but still he's cashing this the majority of the time this year. 51% hit rate, averaging 13.9 points per game this year. You do see a lot more red in the first half of the season. Now, in the second half, a lot more green for Tobias Harris, including this last 15 to 20 game stretch that you see right here that we talked about. Now, from a head-to-head data standpoint, it is a little bit of a smaller sample size. We have 2 games in the last year and a half that he's played against OKC. Both games taking place last season when Tobias Harris was a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. So, again, different team, different year, different circumstances there. A different Thunder team as well. But he did cash the over both times, averaging 17 points per game across those 2 meetings with OKC. So, like I said, a decent amount of green data across the board here for Tobias Harris. Now, from a matchup standpoint defensively, the Thunder do rank very well from an overall standpoint. They rank 3rd in the NBA this year in points allowed to the power forward position, giving up only 20.7 points per game. However, if you go ahead and narrow it down a little bit, they're still not a bad team defensively versus power forwards, but they're not exactly a great team anymore. Last 7 games, they ranked 12th in the NBA in points allowed to the power forward position. In the last 15 games, you go ahead and stretch it out a little bit further, they are 16th in the NBA in points allowed to the power forward position. So like I said, not a great matchup, not like it's a favorable matchup. You wouldn't be seeing green if that number showed up here, but they're not like what we see here where they're the top 3 defense and points allowed. They're about middle of the road in the last 7 to 15 games. So I don't think it's a bad matchup. He has cashed both times they played. Look at Detroit in their hierarchy without Jaden Ivey. Tobias Harris is a very important part from an offensive standpoint for this Pistons team. We have the insights provided by Outlier. Tobias Harris has exceeded 13.5 points in 10 of his last 13 games at home, averaging 16.8 points per game over his last 13 home games. That is a 77% hit rate. Overall this year at home for Tobias Harris, a 63% hit rate, averaging 15.19 points per game at home this year. And one last data point to show you guys games this season without Jaden Ivey, who's obviously out for the year. Now, at home without Jaden Ivey this year, a 70% hit rate, averaging 16.15 points per game at home this year where Jaden Ivey does not play. In general, without Jaden Ivey, a 59% hit rate, averaging 14.56 points per game this year. So whatever way you shake it, it actually is a pretty solid player prop. And for minus 125 odds, pretty good value also. All right, guys, our second player prop in today's slate, we're moving on to the Bucks-Pacers game, 8 p.m. tip-off. We're going Brook Lopez of the Milwaukee Bucks over 12.5 points. Again, minus 110 actually on BetMGM, available on multiple sportsbooks for varying odds. The data is not as impressive on this one as the Tobias Harris prop, but it's still pretty solid overall for Brook Lopez. You see for Brook Lopez, he's cashed the over in 6 of his last 10 games, averaging 14 points per game over his last 10. Go ahead and stretch the data out to the entire season view. A 52% hit rate on this over, averaging 12.66 points per game this year for Brook Lopez. Again, not bad, not great overall. One key thing to note, obviously Bobby Portis still out serving his suspension. This year, when Bobby Portis does not play, Brook Lopez has a 61% hit rate on this over, averaging 14.67 points per game this year without Bobby Portis. So that is worth mentioning, I think. And he actually has played Indiana once this year, just a couple of days ago without Bobby Portis back on March 11th. He had 23 points in that game. So pretty good reference point there for Brook Lopez against this same Pacers team. Look at the head-to-head data overall, even including when Bobby Portis does play. He's cashed the over in 9 of his last 14 meetings against the Indiana Pacers, including playoffs. That is a 64% hit rate, averaging 15.64 points per game against the Pacers across their last 14 meetings. Now, they have played 3 times this year. He's cashed the over in 2 of those 3 games. The only time he missed it, November 22nd, he had just 11 points in that game. But then the subsequent games, December 31st, he had 16 points. And again, that most recent matchup just a few days ago on March 11th, he had 23 points. Overall this year, the Indiana Pacers, they are 17th in points allowed to opposing centers. Whoa. All right, there we go. Back in action. So, yeah, overall, pretty solid player prop here for Brook Lopez over 12.5 points. The Pacers, again, 17th in points allowed overall this year, 18.3 points per game. Not a great matchup, but actually, you look at the last couple games, the Pacers defensively versus centers, they're not a great team. They're bottom half of the league. They're not the worst team, but they're not a great team either. So a pretty good matchup here for Brook Lopez. And Miles Turner, just not the defensive savant he used to be around the rim. All right, guys, our third player prop from today's slate. We're moving on to the Pelicans-Spurs game, 8:30 p.m. tip-off. We got Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans over 6.5 rebounds. Now, this is a little bit juiced here, minus 140 over on DraftKings. Actually, BetMGM saving us again, minus 130 over on BetMGM. So we'll go ahead and take that one, minus 130. Over on BetMGM. Still a little juice, but not bad. Data is not too shabby either. You see he's cashed the over in 6 of his last 10 games, averaging 7.2 rebounds per game over his last 10. Overall this year, a 57% hit rate on the over, 16 out of 28 games. He's cashed the over, averaging 7.32 rebounds per game this season. So overall, not bad. Pretty solid numbers overall here for Zion. Pretty small sample size, only 28 games played, but in those 28 games, it's been pretty solid. He also have the head-to-head data here. 3 of his last 5 meetings against the Spurs, he's cashed the over. That's a 60% hit rate, averaging 7 rebounds per game against San Antonio. Now, he's played them 2 times this year, both within the last month. The first time back on February 23rd, he had 9 rebounds. And then the more recent one, just a couple days later on February 25th, he had 6 rebounds. So he did miss the mark by 1 in those games. Now, he didn't play a ton of minutes, 27.9, 29.3. Look at the rebound chances. He did have 12 rebound chances in their first meeting, 13 rebound chances in their second meeting. So plenty of opportunities there for him to grab rebounds. Ultimately, just in the second time, just didn't grab enough. Again, he had 13 rebound chances, only grabbed 6 rebounds in that game. Not bad numbers. Look at the numbers versus power forward. San Antonio 23rd and rebounds allowed to power forwards this year, giving up 10.9 rebounds per game. So it's a pretty solid matchup. The data overall, again, it's not the best data in the world, but he is cashing at a 57% hit rate this year and a 60% hit rate over his last 10 games. And again, the head-to-head data, 60% hit rate, 50% this year. So really can't complain too much for minus 130 odds. Not bad value for a Spurs team that, especially with Wemby being out, really struggles to rebound the basketball. All right, guys, our fourth player prop from today's slate comes from the Knicks-Warriors game, 8:30 p.m. tip-off. We actually have two player props. Our final two player props in today's video are coming from this Knicks-Warriors game. The first of two and fourth overall, we have Steph Curry over 24.5 points. This one is minus 120 over on BetMGM. BetMGM doing God's work today, giving us fantastic lines here and fantastic odds here, I should say, for these lines. The recent data is solid. The overall data is not as good. This line is definitely a slight bit elevated. Steph Curry has cashed this over in 6 of his last 10 games, averaging 28.6 points per game over his last 10 games. If we go ahead and stretch that out to the entire season view, like I said, not the best, 47% hit rate this year, 27 out of 57 games he's cashed the over, averaging 24.28 points per game this year. So when you look at the overall picture for Steph Curry, not as impressive, but again, not bad. Now from a head-to-head standpoint, the data gets a lot better. You see he's cashed it in 3 straight meetings with the New York Knicks, 100% hit rate, averaging 28.67 points per game across the previous 3 matchups with the Knicks. They have played once this year, literally about 11 days ago. Actually, not about 11 days ago. Back on March 4th, he had 28 points in that game. It was a 12-point win for the Golden State Warriors. Steph played 33 minutes in that game, and he shot 10 for 21 from the floor, so he could have even done more than what he did, honestly. The good thing to note, though, is in all 3 of the previous matchups, he's taken at least 20 shots in each of their last 3 meetings, so that's obviously a good thing. The volume will certainly be there for Steph Curry. I do want to show you guys the Jimmy Butler effect for Steph Curry. Since the Warriors have acquired Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry has been going off, and it's been a really fun thing to watch. Steph Curry has played 14 games this season with Jimmy Butler, and he's cashed the over in 9 of those 14 games, a 64% hit rate this year when he shares the court with Jimmy Butler, averaging 28.64 points per game with Butler this season. So the numbers are looking pretty solid here for Steph Curry. Also, the head-to-head matchup. Now, overall, the Knicks, we know they're a solid defensive team, 13th overall in points allowed. Versus point guards, they have a little bit of a weak spot, 16th in points allowed, about middle of the road. They do struggle with point guards, though, like Steph Curry. So I could see this being a really strong matchup here for Curry. When he plays the Knicks, you just have this feeling that Curry just lights it up a little extra more. Steph's also had a couple quiet games here. Like the last time out, March 13th versus the Kings, only 11 points. The time before that, 24 versus Portland. You just kind of get the feeling that he's kind of loading up for a big game here. This is obviously going to be a Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. kind of primetime game versus the New York Knicks, a solid basketball team, a solid contending team. Look at them. I mean, he played still decent minutes in these last 2 games with the shot attempts. Only 9 shots versus Sacramento, only 14 shots versus Portland. You can just kind of sense that he's loading up. And in a game like this, the Warriors need Steph Curry to do more. So I like Steph Curry here over 24.5 points. And our 5th and final player prop in today's video, again, sticking with this Knicks-Warriors game, actually sticking with the same team here in the Golden State Warriors. We have Jimmy Butler under 12.5 rebounds plus assists, which we're getting over on BetMGM for minus 135 odds. The data is absolutely fantastic on this player prop. He's cashed the under in 7 of his last 10 games, averaging 11.1 rebounds plus assists per game. Go ahead and stretch that out to the entire season view. His time with the Warriors and with the Miami Heat, 74% hit rate this year, averaging just 10.54 rebounds plus assists per game this year. So pretty good numbers across the board here for Jimmy Butler. Even the last 20 games numbers here, 75% hit rate, averaging 10.05 rebounds plus assists per game. Couple really big games in there, including just a couple days ago versus the Portland Trailblazers. He had 10 rebounds and 10 assists in that game. But for the most part, he doesn't do that too often. Now, the head-to-head data, also pretty solid. 5 straight matchups against the New York Knicks. He's failed to cash the over, averaging 8.8 rebounds plus assists per game across the last 5 meetings with the New York Knicks. Now, only one time was with the Golden State Warriors back on March 4th. He had just 4 rebounds and 4 assists in that game. He did play them another time this year with the Miami Heat with, again, 4 rebounds and 4 assists. And this does make a lot of sense. The Knicks this year overall, the number 1 rebounding team in the NBA in terms of not giving up a lot of rebounds to opposing teams, and they are 9th in assists allowed. So top 10 in both of these categories. Versus small forwards, 9th in rebounds, 5th in assists, so really good numbers. Even versus power forwards, 5th in rebounds, 7th in assists. So whatever way you shake it, it's a really tough matchup for Jimmy Butler here. He's cashed this under in 5 straight matchups, 74% hit rate overall this year. Really good numbers for Jimmy Butler. And the insights provided by Outlier, Jimmy Butler has failed to exceed 11.5. Now we're taking it at 12.5. Right, but he's failed to cash he's failed to exceed to cash the over 11.5 rebounds in 16 of his last 19 games versus top 10 defenses for assists allowed. And if you go ahead and adjust this to 12.5, it's actually 17 of his last 19 games versus top 10 defenses for assists allowed. So whatever way you want to shake it, guys, really, really solid player prop here to close out today's video. That's all 5 player props in today's slate. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, guys, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. No video tomorrow. We take Sundays off. We'll be back on Monday with another NBA player prop video. But until then, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your weekend. Have fun. Be safe. Let's go ahead and make some money.